Welcome in, nerds, and today I want to talk about something that a lot of people don't talk about. I had a friend of mine shoot me a text. They were really bummed because they didn't have a lot of pre-saves on a release that they had. They were going back and forth saying that, it's just like, it feels like I'm doing all of this work and nothing's coming of it, and I don't really know what I'm doing wrong and everything like that. And I had to tell them essentially, like, you're not doing anything wrong. You're probably doing everything right. Could there be more things that you could be doing? Absolutely. There's so many different ways. But the reality of it is that you can put out a song, you can put out an album, you can put out whatever you want, and it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to engage with it right away. You either have to do one of two things, where you have to essentially force everybody to engage in it, or you have to pray that the content or the algorithm or all that stuff will work in your favor and bring it to the masses. Now, if you came to this video on advice on how to be able to promote your song or how to be able to work the algorithm, wrong video. Part of the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because I'm not stupid and I understand that it's part of the game. One of the things that I had said to this person was, you either have to be a transcendent talent or willing to put a lot of money into it. And there's really no in between. That, like, the in between is like that, like 1% of 1%. Like I said back in my earlier videos, being famous, that's fine, but you can be able to have a healthy life as an artist and not be selling out arenas. Obviously, that's a goal and it would be great to do, but it's not feasible on a regular basis. And I think a lot of people outside of the art industry think that that's all we're trying to do. And in reality, we just want to be upstanding citizens. We want to be, we want to work. We want to be able to pay bills. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want those things like doctors and lawyers and accountants do, but we just want to do it on our terms, which makes it way more difficult. You have a song, you have an album, you have a piece of art you want to put out into the world. People are not engaging with it. It's just not, the situation is not the same for us, and it's not the same for everybody, because art is subjective. Some people like it, some people don't, and people go their entire life with creating all this art and never releasing it, so nobody hears it. And then there's people that go their entire life releasing every single thing that they've ever thought of, and nobody cares about it. Your art, what you're doing, is for you. It's not for other people, and if you can sort of adopt that mantra, it's a gift to other people to allow them to listen or watch or look at, because it's personal. It's a piece of you, and it's so hard not to get in your head when you're in those situations. People have so much to care about now. It's like nearly impossible to cut through all the bullshit, but we have to continue to do it if that's what we want to do. If something like pre-saves is going to bother you, the rest of this journey is going to suck. And you always want everybody to be with you during the journey. The more that you put yourself out there, the more that you explain yourself, the more that you are vulnerable with the people that you want to appreciate your art, the more that they'll understand of why you're doing it in the first place. And I think that comes down to the root problem. Because of things like Spotify, artists have been relegated to an album photo and a number. You're just a song title, and that's really it. And even with that, sometimes you're not even that, because it's so mindless with playlists, and it's really hard to connect. And that's what you're trying to do, especially if you're creating something that's a piece of you. You're telling a story. You're telling your story. And you want to be able to convey your story to people, and you want them to care back. But you have to understand is that you're also asking a lot of them. People have their own stories. People have their own problems. You want to be able to help them, yes, by telling your stories, but not everybody's willing to listen. And that has to be okay with you. The hardest part about doing this is understanding that there's not many people that are going to care about all the work that you put in. So me, let's say I put out a record and it's some of my best work. I think it's some of my best work, so I'm willing to release it to the world. People listen to the song and then they just sort of move on. Some people will get attached to it, some people don't. Some people won't even bother when I post about telling you to listen to it. But the song itself had so much that went into it. And it's not just about the experience that I had. It's not about the chords that I chose. It's not about the words that I wrote down. It's not about the recording process. It's not about any of that. It's about the 20-year journey from when I started to now. This is the latest thing that has come from that 20 years. So when you go into a situation and you're trying to justify for people to pay attention to what you're doing, in your mind, you're probably thinking, like I am most of the time, this was 20 years in the making. And in 5 years, it'll be 25 years in the making, whatever I put out then. But to other people, they don't know that. But if you convey that, if you make that known, then people will better understand. It's really hard to get people to relate to your music because there's so much of it out there. People constantly ask me questions about why this and why that, and do I do this and do I do that, and why is this happening and why isn't this happening? And I'm constantly fielding questions like that. And that's why this one specifically hit me, because I've been in that situation. You want people to care, but on a regular basis, they don't. And that's okay. It's all right. You can't expect everybody to care. 4 billion people in the world. You think every one of them is going to give a shit? You'd be lucky if you get 10 people to give a shit. That's just the reality of it. It's tough. It sucks. It's an expectation we put on ourselves. And we'll look at an artist. I found this plenty of time. Dominic and I wrote a song about this called Where the Ghosts Are Home, about this specific subject. We were playing in Springfield, Illinois, and we played this place called the Main Gate. And the local opener was this dude, Silas Taki. I remember during his set being like in awe. This guy, incredible songwriter, incredible singer. And if it wasn't for us booking that show, we would have never heard of him. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't make great music. That doesn't mean that he doesn't make great art. We wrote that song because I could not get that out of my head. How many other amazing artists are all over that you've never heard of? And the internet has given us access to a lot more people, granted. But it's so much, you now get buried in the abundance, as opposed to being unknown because there wasn't enough ways to be able to find these people. Now there's too many ways to find these people. So no matter what, you're always going to get stuck in this weird situation. You feel like you're never going to win. But I will tell you this, if you really take a hard look at what you want that connection to be, it may be easier for you. Because if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I want to play arenas, that's fine. There's ways to do it. There's people that can show you how to do it. If all you want to do is create great art, make friends, and help people, you could do it like this. I've had more people reach out to me about stuff like this since I started doing these videos, and this doesn't cost me anything. I'm not looking to be a #1 YouTuber. I wasn't looking to do anything except for talk to the people that want to hear these things and listen when they want to talk back. And I have taken for granted that ability to be vulnerable, and I should do it more often, because this shit is tough. This sucks sometimes. I do this all the time where I'm like, I can't complain. I could be working a 9-to-5 job. I could be stuck in an office. I could be toiling away, working for, some type of corporation and then only doing this on the side. I am so lucky that I get to do this for a job. Does it have its downfalls? Absolutely. Money is all dependent on what you can be able to do. If I'm sick, I make no money. I don't get PTO. We don't have a union. There's no health insurance. You have to buy it on your own. But I do this because I fucking love it. So you have to ask yourself, do you do this because you love it? Or do you do this because you want pre-saves?